Well, in Mate, I have a little microphone down in my right side panel,
Yeah, no, I mean I've got the
and you click on that and it mutes.
Oh,
I've got the
by the
sound.
way, we're live.
Excellent, just what we need.
We are live. Well, I would hate to be dead, but
Yeah, good, fair point. So interestingly, when I plug this in, I get two options. I get digital output or I get analog output.
I use analog. Bill uses digital.
So at the moment, the microphone is on analog. I
I do
switched
mine
over
on
now to
analog.
digital.
I tried to switch to digital on mine and it didn't work. So, but I know
Seems
Bill
to me
uses
that digital works better.
You sound good. The Q2U is up in your game a little bit there.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
under sound
worthwhile
preferences, I only have
endeavor.
analog now.
How are you two chaps anyway? I haven't seen you guys for ages.
Old
Well,
and in pain.
very, very.
Why? What have you done to yourself, Joe?
Just my lower back is deteriorating.
Hmm.
Sometimes it happens when you get old.
Yeah.
Well,
Very true.
last weekend I drove to South Carolina and back. We had a little bit of car trouble, although it wasn't major. Our turbo decided to go into under boost mode, and so we have that in the shop now, and we've been running all over the place. I have not worked this week, but I've done a lot more running around than I do when I am working, so I am worn.
My posterior chain is extremely tight, so I've been doing a lot of low weight good mornings, making sure that I keep my form, even though I'm not getting a lot of range of motion, to force a stretch in those
Mm-hmm.
particular muscles, and that does help a little bit. It makes it feel a little bit better.
You have
So
a
I
chain
had
around
one of
your
my
waist?
mates. So I was just saying, one of my mates is actually a personal trainer. He actually said to me, "Do you want a session free?" And I went, "Okay, go on then. I'll go." And I mean, a lot of it was stuff I already knew, but there was a lot of reinforcement of, form over weight, and paying attention to the posterior chain, like you say, warming up and this, that, and the other. And so I did learn a bit from that actually.
I need to work on my warm up routine. Just, I don't know, get some, not doing stretches or anything. That's not a proper warm up. That'll actually get you injured in the
Hey,
long
there's
run.
Bill.
So,
Oh, William has arrived. I thought he couldn't come.
I'm in shape, guys. Round is a shape.
yep, that's very true.
Yeah, it takes a lot of a time and effort to get that, lovely svelte figure, isn't it, Moss?
Yes, I have the body of a god, Buddha.
Bill.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Bill's daughter.
What's happening, kids?
I'm all right, man. Thanks for this headphone. Sorry,
Yeah.
microphone.
Oh, you sound great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. It was
You
worth it
can't go
then.
wrong with those things.
There's a bit of a story behind this, though, as to so what happened was that
You spent money again.
no. So Bill sent it over, right? Because
Ugh.
Bill has been very charitable, very nice of him
Bill
to
is
do
a great
so.
guy. We will be
Unfortunately,
standardizing him now.
unfortunately he put the wrong address in.
I put the
And
address you gave me.
okay. Well, either me
Whatever
or you did a
thought it was.
typo then. Either me or you did a typo because it's number 4, not number 7.
Oh, that explains
Number
why it couldn't
4,
get
Privet
delivered.
Drive.
So anyway, so I told.
My
So
daughter
anyway,
just laughed. She got the joke.
You're a wizard, Ari.
I was at work, so I told my mom, "Can you just go over to number 7 and just get the UPS thing so that I can then do a redelivery?" And she went, and it was this old elderly couple who were like, "Well, we had this guy come. We had no idea what it was about or anything like that. So, and he put this thing in the doors because, we couldn't accept the parcel and we didn't know what to do with it. So we've given it to our daughter. Okay, where does your daughter live? Somewhere else. Okay, fine. So my mom then goes round to the daughters, right? And she's like, "Yeah, I didn't understand what this was, and I didn't know who Dr. Majid was, and I just didn't understand." And then so I actually went to the depot and I got it and opened it, and I was like, "Why have I got a microphone? Where's this come from?" And then my mum said, "No, it's my son's. Someone sent it over." And so, but it was very nice of her to do all that. So my mum was feeling really nice. So she gave her a thank you card and some chocolate, saying thank you for,
That's nice.
Were they
And that
magic
all
chocolates or
happened
just real
relatively
ones?
quick too.
Pardon?
I
That
said,
happened relatively quick too.
Oh yeah, no, it happened relatively quick. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, as I said, yeah, it worked out all right. It all worked out all right. So, and then yeah.
were they
So
magic chocolates
I've
or just
literally only just
regular
set it up now.
chocolates?
No, I can't remember what chocolates they were. I think they were. What did she get them? Oh, one of those chocolate boxes, celebrations or something like. Oh, yeah, this kind of box it was. This kind of box
Yeah.
of chocolate.
Well, Firecat makes my chocolates for me, and they come with a little extra bonus in them.
Ooh. Well, like a hit of meth.
No. Just Delta 8,
A little bit of
Yeah.
THC.
Yeah.
A little bit of almost THC. THC is Delta 9.
Oh, okay. So it's just a cannabinoid.
Yeah. It's the same chain roughly. They have the alkaloid can attach at the 8th link, the 9th link, or the 10th link. If it's the 9th link, it's THC.
Dude's got a PhD in weed, man.
Have you seen some of the
Man, I don't know nothing about weed.
have you seen some of the studies that have come out recently talking about the difference between like weed now and weed in the 70s and the overall strength? Because back then it was like 1.5% THC, and now some of the stuff they're coming out with between the vapes and the edibles and all that, and you're looking at like 80 to 90 or even 95%, and it's just actually causing people to not like overdose to the point of death, but overdose to the point where they're vomiting
Yeah.
constantly.
You can't take too much of it, it's sure.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Or forming
kids,
an
I can't
addiction.
play.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for jumping
I
on,
will-
though.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a little bit disturbing. But I'm in Texas, and so it's still illegal.
I'm in the UK. It's still illegal.
We'll get our weed someday, Father. Someday.
Is there a particular reason why
What?
it's still illegal in the UK? I mean, technically, as long as your doses aren't as high as some of the crap that's coming out now, it has less of a detrimental effect long term than, say, something like alcohol.
Just a little side note about alcohol.
Oh, we lost
Alcohol is only legal because it's always been legal.
Right.
If
exactly.
if alcohol was invented tomorrow, it would be class A. It would never get out.
Well, that's part of the reason, marijuana is illegal is because it's always been illegal since, the certain groups in the U.S. decided that they didn't
Eric.
like Catholic Hispanics.
Joe.
Yes, I see your drugs. Thanks for bringing your drugs on air.
One of those blocks is 40 milligrams of Delta 8.
We appreciate you bringing your drugs to the show.
Hey, I'd pass it around, but you guys aren't here,
Right.
So
What
I
a generous
think
guy.
I think there was some attempts to decriminalize cannabis use, and it kind of failed, as in it didn't really work very well, and so therefore I think there hasn't been the same impetus now. And frankly, the thing is, the British public over the last 15 years has just been distracted. It's been distracted by something or the other. It's either been distracted by
Your politics are almost as screwed up as ours are right now.
Yeah, whether it's Brexit or refugees or this, that, and the other, nobody's really thinking about this kind of stuff. And so there is a lot of decriminalization. You don't if you get caught with it, most of the time, police just give you a stern telling off and tell you to go. Having said that, because of the kind of financially situations that people have been in, cannabis farms are something that it's a thing now. And so if you were to legalize it, I think it would be a massive headache for law enforcement in the short term. I know in the long term it probably won't be, but in the short term it would be. And you've got a government at the minute that tries to pride itself on law and order by cutting police officers. But yeah, and so
Yeah, we got
and
similar.
so yeah, and so therefore I think the practicalities of it mean, and as I said, there isn't. There was maybe about 15 years ago a bit of a thing about we should try legalize or things like that. But as I said, it's not really worked out as well.
Well, it hasn't
And
been legalized federally here yet, and that means that all the growers can't actually use banks to put their money away. That I actually have an investment in a company called IIPR, which they go around to all the pot growers and they buy their facilities and lease them back to them so that the facilities have a cash flow.
interesting. It's kind of like I've got a friend who has bought solar panels in Africa and then leases it back to the villages that are there.
I
Kind
actually
of way.
saw one of those leasing solar panel things being a complete scam, that they weren't producing the quality or the volume that they said they were, and we're getting these gigantic tax breaks here in the U.S.
Well, for now, we're getting these gigantic tax breaks. I have my concerns because, like in the state of Texas, it's kind of known that eventually that they will come back around and tack on all these fees from the electric company that will make your solar panels cost you just as much monthly as it would to be using electricity, which has happened in the past, but with the recent things, it died off. But if you look at like electric vehicles in the state of Texas, they're redoing how the registration is done so that the taxes that you're not paying on gas get reapplied to the registration process. So, yeah, so they're disincentivizing clean energy, but uh, I could have a whole
It's Texas. What do you expect?
I could have a whole conversation on how electric vehicles aren't as clean as you think they are, but yeah.
Well, no, the manufacturing process is not clean at all.
When
Not
I was
just
working way back in my first marriage, I was working for an AMC dealer.
Oh, bloody hell, that must have been a while ago.
It was.
Yeah.
And AMC took a Pacer and made it an electric vehicle and ran it, and they figured out the amount of energy it cost was about the same as what it would have cost for gasoline,
Right.
except that energy was being produced at a oil burning power
Exactly.
plant.
That was going to be my next point. Was that where does the electricity come from? So coal burning plants, natural gas burning plants. Here we do have a decently high percentage of wind power, but the wind power gets blamed for everything when the grid starts having problems. So.
Yeah.
But yes, the manufacturing process as well. I mean, the process of making the giant batteries that go into them, or
There was that congressman on the science committee that said that wind turbines will slow down the wind and it'll eventually
Oh no,
stop.
that was Trump. That was Trump. Trump said
so
that.
Trump actually borrowed it. It was a congressman. That
Oh,
said
okay.
it first.
Okay.
But he was on the science committee, for God's sake.
But those giant batteries that go into those vehicles, I mean, they don't last as long as they should, number one. Number two, they're dirty to make. Number three, when they do go bad, where do they go? It's not like they're being recycled.
Well, they do have recycling facilities. Number one, the Toyota Priuses, the battery packs seem to be lasting a lot longer than they expected.
Good.
They're saying 12 to 14 years on those, and there are already third-party battery makers that can give you a whole battery pack for like $800.
Right. Well, right now, I'm still, behind the electric car movement because these are just growing pains, and eventually we'll find cleaner and better ways, and we will get the infrastructure needed to actually make it so that you can go more than 200 miles from your house.
Well, a lot of them are 400 miles now.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, but where are you going
I
to
know
charge?
Nobody would buy an electric pickup truck if it could only go 200 miles.
But where would you charge? That becomes the question.
Well,
Now there are apps that will help you out with that, and that's great for
growing fast, too.
very urbanized areas. But let's see how well that works in like Montana or the rural
and the other
areas of
thing is,
Iowa.
When we first got automobiles, where were you going to get gas for it?
Same
it's
thing.
growing
You're
fast.
waiting for the infrastructure to get there.
so I mean, if you look at the UK is a much smaller country than obviously the States, and yet we have a terrible infrastructure for electric cars.
Well-
Even though our
have a
government's
terrible
committed to,
infrastructure about
yeah, our government's committed to phasing out petrol and diesel cars by 2030.
That was weird.
Now,
At all.
what I appreciate about the EU, the UK, all the countries there, is that they are beginning to enforce a standardized battery for these vehicles, which is extremely important in being able to maintain the vehicle. So that way you can just, once the
Or at
battery is
least a standard
standardized,
connector.
yeah, standard connector, standard size batteries, so that way you can get generics. That way, if a manufacturing company just quits making said vehicle and quits making said battery, it's not just a lump on the side of the road. And you can go and get a new battery. And that is also extremely important.
I don't believe we've met, Eric. My name's Majid. Nice
Hey,
to meet you.
Majid, I've been listening and yeah, so I've been listening to mintCast. I actually listened to your shameless promotion, a bit
All
of
right.
your other podcast too. So
Oh, all right. Okay.
yeah, nice to meet you.
Speaking
Eric is
of
one of our
Eric,
co-hosts on Distro Hoppers.
speaking of
Say again, sorry?
Eric, oh, he's one of the co-hosts on Distro Hoppers.
Yes, I thought I recognized your voice. The voice.
We are short-handed next weekend. It's me and Moss.
Okay.
Do you want to pick a topic and be on there?
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah,
Means I don't have
unfortunately,
to pick a time?
my daughter's got a scan at exactly that same time, so maybe I
That's
need to take
Sunday
her
at
to.
3.
Stuff comes up.
Listen.
I missed last show. Things happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you guys listened to our last episode?
I haven't yet.
All right. I was going to see what your thoughts were. I did get a bit ranty.
It happens.
No. No, I mintCast is one of my favorites just because it's such a it feels as a natural flow and it's just like a good sort of mix of topics, and I mean it's sort of a similar format to other shows, but for some reason I think it just sort of, maybe because of the way the host setup is, I'm not entirely sure, but there's definitely something about the format that is easier to listen to, that is sort of more, even when you rant, it feels like it's kind of contained. You know what I mean? Like there's this topic was discussed, and then you guys sort of move on. Because I mean, I like Lugcast and I like some of these other shows, but they're definitely meant to just be chatty.
Yeah.
It's much,
The other two shows that I'm on, yes, they are Linux based, but they're a lot. They don't necessarily bring like a good central topic each time, and that's one of the things that I like about mintCast is that we
Right.
do have that innard section where we have what we think is a good topic to go on at the time, and so yes,
We need to
extremely
get
informative.
Eric access to the show notes.
That's Bill. Bill's gonna have to do it. It's his next cloud.
Yep, and we need to contact him to let him know that.
Yep.
Eric, are you well? You don't sound as bassy as usual.
yeah, I don't know what's going on with my voice today, but no, I've actually been feeling better. It's almost 2 weeks since the surgery, and the pain is much less. So, yeah, just this past, I would say 3 days or so, I've been able to walk around with, I use a cane a little bit, but I've been more or less without. And it's amazing to me how quickly it's all sort of progressed. The pain is still probably the most problematic thing, just as I've ramped up my activity and I do more physical therapy, they're all good things. I need to do them. The pain has also sort of stayed at a pretty consistent level. So I've been hoping for it to drop off. I mean, it's nothing like it was for the first 36 hours after the nerve block wore off. It was
If you don't mind me asking, what did you have done?
total hip replacement.
Oh, okay, fine. So
Yeah.
did you have a spinal anesthetic injection in the back.
Yeah, it was great. I went to an outpatient surgery center. It's a small place. Yeah, they did a spinal nerve block on that area,
Yeah.
and then propofol to just put me in
Yeah.
twilight. For the
That's our
surgery.
standard. That's our standard nowadays. Because the
Well, I
most
did.
important thing, as you probably know already, is the most important thing is the physiotherapy afterwards.
Yeah.
And so anything that can speed that process up.
It's probably not my place to say this, but Eric is a cancer survivor.
Yeah,
Well
yeah.
done.
Well, all of this is so I had to get a hip replacement because I've been on prednisone for
Mm.
6, 7 years, and I had avascular necrosis, and
Yeah.
so yeah. So I'm now sort of the first wave was all of the chemo stuff, and I had a stem cell transplant for leukemia, and sort of got past that, and now it's sort of the long term effects of taking
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals. So
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
um,
interesting actually you mentioned that. Just today, I heard that one of my cousins in India, she was rushed back to hospital. So she has a chronic liver condition for which she was on prednisolone for a long time.
mhm.
And she got married and they wanted to have children. They were kind of told, don't, if you're going to do it, then, it's got to be planned. And so this long tapering off of steroids and this, that, and the other. And thankfully, she got pregnant quite quickly. And then she had the baby. And then she had the baby about a week ago, maybe a bit less than that. She had a cesarean, and then today I heard that she'd been rushed back in because she'd got infection at the site of the operation, which yes, she might not specifically be on anything that immunosuppresses her at the moment, but she's had years and years of it.
Yeah.
And so, and this was why some of us was telling her, don't have a cesarean, try and go for a natural birth.
All three of my kids were born by cesarean, and there
Yeah,
were
same here.
complications with the first one, even like not just during the birth, but also with the healing process afterwards. But
Yeah.
it's not really
Same
my
here.
story to tell. So
Yeah, no, but it's exactly exactly the same. All my three kids were cesareans, and they were there was always an issue. There was always a problem. It was never a smooth. Now, having said that, maybe birth isn't necessarily
It
a
might have
smooth
been
thing. I mean,
worse.
before modern medicine, 50% of women died in childbirth. So it is a dangerous event. So it's probably not surprising. But anyway, so that point about the long-term effect of having drugs, even if you're not actually on them, they have these kind of sequelae that you have to then deal with years down the line. Even when things
Oh,
are
yeah.
more stable. But yeah, 2 weeks seems to be an important. I don't know if there's any evidence on this, but it does seem to mean that whatever operation you have, and I've had a couple of operations as well, 2 weeks seems to be the kind of the first 2 weeks is always a bit difficult, and then things seem to you wake up one morning and you're like, I'm better. I'm not entirely sure what that is due to.
My wife's having knee surgery soon, we hope.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just got her a new bed, and she'll probably be living in it for a little while. But
it takes about 2 weeks to get used to hurting enough that you don't notice that you hurt.
Who knows? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe your
'cause
tolerance goes up.
I've lived with pain for a long time. I've even been on pain medication for quite a long time. It's not so much that. I mean, there's sort of a pain floor, where I'm sort of just used to this level, and all but the first 36 hours has been within that managed range. I mean, of course, when I move a certain way or when I put pressure on it, there is a sort of an immediate sort of jolt of pain, but there's not that soreness. I mean, the first 36 hours was almost like manic pain. Like it was like,
Yeah.
how do I get away from this pain?
I need to interrupt. Eric, what email
sir.
do you want to use for this?
Let's use the
ESA?
same one that I'm using for the distro hoppers, the Proton.
I don't remember it.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Well, let's. Are you on Discord?
Yeah. Well, that's
Of
on
course you are.
chat.
Of course you are.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
of course it is. How else are you talking to him? Flipping heck.
I don't know. We might have been on Video Ninja. I don't know.
Every time I send out the announcement,
the Force isn't real. The Force is just a mythical concept.
Well, I've been
Could be
taking
real in my head.
midichlorians twice a day, so
Speaking of the Force, has anybody watched the new Star Wars thing,
Ashoka?
Ahsoka?
No,
Not
I
yet.
haven't seen it.
Not
So
yet.
I started watching it, and I really feel like the fact that I had never watched the Clone Wars and Rebels means I'm at a real disadvantage. Having said that, it is interesting because it's all stuff I don't know about, Dark Jedi's and who the hell is Admiral Thrawn. I've no idea.
Well,
Do you know what I
that
mean?
also means you haven't read the books.
Yeah,
No, I haven't. I've always been more of a Trekkie than a
I have watched
Star
most
Wars.
of the cartoon versions of Star Wars, and Thrawn is very major feature in them. I like Star Wars Rebels.
I'll tell you the other thing
Um,
I'm watching now is Foundation.
Oh yeah. Did they make it to
Oh,
second
God.
season? Because
They're making a second season apparently.
I tried to watch first season. It didn't work out for me.
I did.
mean,
watch
it is
first season,
very-
It was not good.
I
And
mean, it's
also,
very-
the amount of they added so much to it that the amount of space of time that they covered
Well-
in the books was 75 pages.
Look, it's like iRobot. iRobot was a series of short stories, and they took one of those short stories and made it into a whole movie with
The
Will
Witcher is
Smith.
very similar. Yeah, The Witcher is very similar. It's a lot of short stories. There's a couple of novels, but a lot of it's just smaller. And if you
Oh,
watch
there
the
was-
series,
Oh,
that's
The
really what
Witcher
it is.
The Witcher really fell apart, didn't it? I mean, the
did.
first season was excellent. I loved it. Second season was meh, and then the third season was, oh my lord.
I
The
don't
only,
know.
the only the only interesting fact I can say about it is the girl that plays Yennefer is from about 10 miles away from where I live.
Okay.
Her mother works in the same hospital as I do.
This is her first major role too.
It
So
is, yeah.
She really did a good job.
Well,
I
you
mean,
know,
characters
I mean,
are
the
good.
acting's been
And-
fine. The acting's
Yeah.
been fine. I can't, but it's the scripts have just been rubbish.
Well, you
Awful.
know, he's been kicked out of the DC universe. He's no
That's-
longer Superman.
Well, yeah, DC. Is that really much of a loss there?
Well, they
Right.
just picked up James Gunn as their showrunner, the way that Kevin Feige is for Marvel.
Well,
so it might get better.
They keep. Oh, okay. Well, maybe they do eventually make a franchise, but they were trying to jump in the middle to create what Marvel did with their entire run, and it just didn't work out for them.
Well, they don't have as empathic of characters. Their characters are not emotional. It's just they're-
No, I would disagree. I would just say
I would disagree as
bad,
well.
It's bad script writing.
They did really well in their television shows for a while. Granted, that died off because you were looking at 9, 10, 12, 15 seasons, whatever it was. Because yeah.
Some of that stuff was really iconic too, like Mark Hamill as the Joker, and like some of that stuff is like you look
Well,
back and it's like
The fake
know.
Joker.
right. Well, of course, but I mean, just like it's amazing they were able to carry some of that forward. But yeah, like a lot of it fell apart, right? The movies fell apart.
I mean, I often wonder if the reason for it was because of the fact that if you look at a lot of these franchises, the ones that have become, big behemoths, whether it's Star Wars, MCU, Star Trek to an extent, they didn't necessarily have a big, massive game plan when they started. There was maybe, the germinations of an idea, but it all depended on whether the films were any good. If Iron Man, the first Iron Man had been crap, then this wouldn't have happened. The thing just wouldn't have taken off.
Right, like
Right?
Peter
That-
Capaldi
that-
first
was in the
season.
weak
Yeah,
spot.
yeah. You have to concentrate on making good films, right?
Yeah.
And
Marvel
then
is in a weak spot right now because they have run out of ideas, and it's like they're trying to coordinate
but
too
it-
many things at once.
yeah,
and-
yeah. Well, I mean, the reason they're in crap is because Disney. I mean, Disney's like the opposite of the Midas touch. Everything it touches turns to shit.
Right now,
I mean,
yeah.
it's yeah. I mean, it seems to be destroying Star Wars. It's
I'm
mean,
going
this
to
phase-
disagree
this
with you
phase
there.
4
They
Well, okay, no.
they were destroying the Star Wars movies, but they were actually bringing some good crap to the Star Wars shows. I mean, The Mandalorian,
Yeah, they were.
maybe not
Mandalorian
Boba
first
Fett.
season was very good. I
Yeah.
agree. Andor was brilliant.
And
Boba Fett,
that's an opinionated thing because I think the shows were not very good.
No,
personally.
I mean, I think the thing about The Mandalorian I thought that was good was that it was the first time that somebody at Lucasfilm, Disney, or whoever bloody owns it, realize that, you know what, there's a lot of stories that we can make that don't involve the Skywalkers, basically the Skywalkers family drama, which is
Right.
what a lot of the movies could feel like.
Well, I really enjoyed
But then
Mandalorian. I did not enjoy Boba Fett as much.
But then, yeah, exactly. I think they squandered it
Right.
after the first season of The Mandalorian, because then the ka-ching's money signs came up, and they're like, "Yes, we can make more of these," and it will just
I
get
think
bigger and bigger.
I think
I
these
actually
streaming
did like
services.
Boba Fett, but
Well, that's just it. And I think there's nothing wrong with them. I like to see. It's just like every time there's a new Star Trek property. I may not love it, but I love the idea that at least somebody is pushing that story forward. There's new
you
content.
love the fact that they're milking it for all it's worth.
Well, no, it's I don't necessarily. So I see the J.J. Abrams movies as milking it personally. I think those movies were awful. They were not in the tone of Star Trek, even in the slightest. They were just silly.
You're
You know,
talking
like-
Kelvin series, yeah.
Yeah, the Kelvin timeline is just anyway. And I think a lot of people agree with that, but still the idea that it ignites some interest in an idea in this, in this world, that then people go and look at other things, right? I mean, so that's to me, I think is, and then you build off of that, and if there's a popularity, then people want that, and it gives other people opportunities that maybe bring better ideas or different ideas. So I may not love every Star Wars or Star Trek or,
Yeah.
property that comes, every comic book the conversion, whatever, video game, whatever it is. But I like at least that they bring, those ideas forward, and that there's enough popularity to get them made. Because for a long time, you couldn't get anything funded like that, and now. But I think where the streaming services kind of went wrong, and you're right, they did see money, the dollar signs, but they also failed to realize how expensive it is to run these services. And, this idea that I love that, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, we were all bitching about how we had to pay these high cable bills. And it was like, if I could only get this one thing that I like to watch,
Yeah.
it would be great, because then I could just pay $5 for it. Well, here we are paying $5, $10, $15, $20 for all of these services collectively. And
Yeah.
we're probably worse off now.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there was a discussion about
right
this on
now
the
we have
Vergecast
Hulu.
podcast.
We have Hulu and we have Amazon Prime because hell, we pay for Prime anyhow. Everything else we're getting on free services or borrowing from our friends. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, there was a very interesting conversation about this, actually, as I said, on the Vergecast, the Verge's podcast,
Okay.
where they discussed about, how, the golden age of streaming has ended. Now, people are spending a lot more, and you can easily tot up how much you're paying for each of these services.
Unless
and
you're
think
Bill.
to yourself, well, I'm paying as much as I would if I was having cable, or in this country it would be satellite, because
Well,
that was the way that we generally got extra channels and stuff. And because the one thing that the streaming people got, which was that people will subscribe for a specific series. Yeah, like there were people who, for example, took Amazon Prime as an example because they wanted to see, I don't know, The Man in the High Castle, if we're talking about a couple of years ago, or they wanted to see The Boys. So, they didn't watch anything else, right? And that's basically what people wanted. But the thing is now, because everything's now spread over about 5, 6, 7 different services, the Disney Plus and the
basically everybody went
Netflix
streaming.
yeah. And so, yeah, you've just ended up in exactly the same place that we were before, but just in a kind of slightly different way.
No,
you know
no,
what I
it
mean?
gets worse, because now you have companies talking about bundling these services, these different streaming services.
Yeah, I've heard
And
about that in America, yeah.
you are right back to the cable dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully that hasn't happened as much here, but then that's partly, as I said, because of the way that our extra channels, as it were, system works. It was traditionally made based on satellite, sky.com, and then only more recently as it become internet based. Sports is a massive thing as well. things being bundled with sports. I mean, obviously the soccer Premier League here is big, obviously.
Didn't
You know, and
You know they want for NFL Pro
oh dude,
TV
don't
two
even
nineteen a year.
don't even get me started on the hockey package, because you pay for the hockey package on cable, and then yeah, you get most of the season, but then by the time the playoffs start,
Playoffs. Blackouts are ridiculous.
all you're getting is baseball, and then you call up the cable company.
Yep.
And it's like, I didn't want baseball, I wanted hockey.
Yep.
And they're
Well, I
like,
used to get-
well, you can watch baseball instead.
Yep. No, I would get center ice, and it would be, I'd go to watch a game I'd want to watch, and it would always be a blackout for this. You know, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I wanted to watch the Penguins.
Of course, we're
And-
Penguins fans here.
Yeah, and the market is they'd black out all the games, and I'd be like, well, wait
No,
a minute, I
just
paid
tell-
for this.
Yeah, just tell the people they don't want to watch USC, do they? Just Texas is blacked out. You'd rather watch USC?
Yeah, but
Anyway,
yeah,
this is why, and I've said this for 20 years now. You know, why people pirate things is because you make it so difficult and frustrating to get the content. If you just had the least path of least resistance between me and what I want to see, I will happily give you a few dollars, you know, whatever reasonable compensation there needs to be. I get it. Things cost money. But you make it so difficult or or completely impossible. What am I supposed to do? I want to watch these things. There are ways to stream things, you know, other people.
do I know
restream
of any
things.
illegal sites that allow you to watch every single Pittsburgh Penguins game?
Maybe.
Maybe.
You know, in theory, those
you couldn't
sites may
possibly
exist.
comment.
I have tried watching illegal feeds of my college football, and they usually catch up to them sometime around the middle of the third quarter.
I know, right? Isn't that
Nothing more
awful?
frustrating.
Yeah, but
Yeah, there's certain ones. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they're like in Russia or like how they don't get busted. But yeah, there are ones where I've been able to watch full games without getting. But they will, like, the next day they're gone. You know, so like that one
you got to
day.
pick the next one on the list.
Right, right.
But no, the metrics do bear out what you're saying. I mean, when Netflix was the only streaming provider, essentially, you saw a massive downturn in the amount of piracy that was going on. And then once
Yeah.
everybody else started bringing their content separate from Netflix, you know, took their content back from Netflix, put it on their own streaming service, and you had all these different streaming services that you had to pay for in order to get everything, you saw an increase once again in the amount of content that is pirated.
I
And-
used to have LimeWire 20 years ago,
Yeah.
which was
You had AIDS?
and what was great about it was I would use that to discover music, and then when I actually knew I liked something, I would go buy it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's I never shared things out. I would only ever like bring them in, listen to them, and if I liked them, then go to Amazon. Always had them for $2 a song or 99
But
cents
the
a song.
longer you were on LimeWire, the more and more you got bad feeds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The things were mislabeled. You'd be like,
Mislabeled
Well-
or total virus.
ShareBear,
Right.
LimeWire.
yeah.
You
So
name it.
anyway, I mean, I've always tried to do the right thing. I understand nothing is free. I think a lot of people, maybe younger than myself, that grew up with the concept of everything being free, they have a hard time with paying for anything. You know, they just see it as their right to have access to all of these things for nothing, and that is a problem, obviously. But you know, to hear like how they're wounded over how they might have to pay for something, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, please. But yeah, if I can do the right thing, I will. But if you force me, and I have no other recourse, then
The exact same
you know.
thing was said when Metallica sued all these different companies because their music was being pirated.
Right.
And you know, it actually was proven that people that pirated these songs were the exact same people that would then turn around and go buy the album.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Or go to their concerts or
or
something
go to the
like that.
concerts. Yeah,
The
exactly.
more they shut off pirating, the more sales plummeted. and they just
Yeah,
didn't
I
want to see pirating
unfortunately,
as part of the cost of doing business.
well, so there's always been, album swapping, tape swapping, like, let me borrow that CD so I can record that one song. I used to hate buying a whole CD for the one song that
Bootlegging.
I wanted,
Mm.
you know?
Oh, I remember
Um,
bootlegs, man. You used to get some
yeah.
fantastic ones,
Well,
live gigs
if
and
you're going
stuff
to
like
buy
that.
my CD, you should listen to all the cuts.
Oh, okay, you're right. We would never skip over yours. No. Um,
No, they usually skip over buying the CD.
anyway, I don't think there is ever going to be a perfect solution to any of it, but I think the smarter companies are the ones that realize if I can make this stuff available to people, and like you said, the statistics show that if you make it easy and reasonably inexpensive, that most people will do the right thing. I think most people do have a conscience. Most people do not like stealing stuff. Like there are certainly some that do, certainly
And that's
some that
why
feel
we're on
entitled.
Linux.
But yeah, if it's easier to pirate than it is to get all the things that you want, then
Yeah,
people go
exactly.
pirate.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree. 100% agree.
There, we've solved it.
Well, all we have to do is go full socialism, have a guaranteed income, allow people to work above that, and then our musicians will not have to worry about starving to death or being kicked out of their apartment.
Oh, wait, no, you're incorrect. AI.
Oh. No, but I do think that there
What
is a
AI,
certain.
Well, there's a big push right now. Part of the writers' strike that's going on is in regards to AI essentially taking jobs. I mean, you have these companies admitting to the fact that they are having extras come on for 1 day's pay, and being digitally recorded and then being put into the background for whatever, however many scenes using AI. Meaning people that were breaking into acting and things like that are no longer getting the opportunity to do that, because instead of being in the background and showing at
Instead of
least a little bit
hiring
of
extras,
character,
they already just plug in the AI they already have. Yeah.
yeah. So how do you get new actors then? You don't, because these people have to go and do something else in order to keep food in their bellies. And then also writers don't get paid enough as it is, when you've got the people at the top making millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars, and the writers are barely making enough to keep their apartments paid. There's an issue there. And then if you're replacing them with AI, even in a small percentage, that's still
2 seconds,
just
lads.
destroying, ingenuity.
One of the actors on This Is Us, which is a killer show, is being rebroadcast every day in millions of homes. Mandy, the mother in the show, says that she has gotten residual checks of 99 cents and $1.30.
That's
Yeah.
harsh.
It's too demoralizing. You can't motivate yourself to do the work when it's, even if you love it, right? You can't give it away. It's just not fair.
Well,
And
that's another issue that has come up, Moss, what you said, because of how residuals work. It's based on the cable model and not the streaming model, so contracts don't cover it, and then that needs to be fixed so that these people actually get paid the way that they should.
I completely agree.
Sorry about that, Eric. Go ahead.
I was just going to say a complete turn of topics here. The purpose of this stream is to determine the topic for the recording stream, correct?
The purpose of this stream is to sit around and chat and get to know each other, and if we're lucky, we'll come up with a topic for the show, which will be a week from tomorrow.
We also want to pick a topic here, but this is specifically to allow Joe to rant so he doesn't put everything into his bi-weekly wanderings and it takes 2 hours.
This is also to let Eric and Respawn and Londoner to show up for this and be part of the team.
Bring in the community, see who else wants to be hosts, maybe just get some outside perspectives,
We're
things
very
like
good at
that.
multitasking around here.
I wasn't sure if you guys had already had. I'm waiting to get access to the documentation, but I didn't know if there was already sort of
We
an
do not have a
idea.
topic for next show.
Do you guys keep sort of a list of possible ideas?
We do,
and
we
then
don't
just
use
sort of-
it.
We have such a list. We haven't probably looked at it in 2 years. It probably doesn't
Excellent.
have anything left on it that we haven't covered anyhow.
Excellent.
We do
Okay.
we've been doing seat of our pants for quite a while. I can see how Rob got burned out after a while. But then Rob got burned out after 245 episodes. Joe is the first person in a long time to exceed 100 episodes. I'm getting close. I think I only have 8 episodes to go.
Yeah. Oh. Are you telling me it's time for me to leave, Moss? That's what I'm hearing.
No,
I heard, get out,
no,
Joe.
No.
But Eric, you either get to pick the topic or we get to interview you.
Whatever you would like. Yeah.
Not what I would
sometimes
like, what you would like, Eric.
Well, sometimes I struggle with topics only because. So
What have you
So I
been
like-
playing with lately?
Well, that's just it. I really haven't been. I've been sort of just recovering, and this last 2 weeks has been a lot of just sort of, low key. I really haven't done very much. I took a look today for the first time at Bodhi 7. I just literally just installed it and playing around with it. I have been playing around with Rhino for Distro Hoppers Digest, but I don't want to. We're talking about Rhino tonight on Linux Saloon, and then I'm going to talk about it for Distro Hoppers Digest. I don't want to also do it on mintCast. I think that's kind of redundant.
That's understandable.
Actually, here's
By
a
the way,
question
Moss-
for you, Eric. What are you running actually at the minute?
Mint.
Okay, 21.2.
I love cinnamon. Have always loved cinnamon. It is. I know this is like a trope at this point, but it is the balance, sort of the midpoint between KDE Plasma's like overwhelming set of settings, and then GNOME's sort of sparse take.
Yeah,
But I prefer
the worst
GTK.
part about Bodhi is enlightenment because there are settings all over the place. They just aren't named very
Yeah.
understandably, and you have to
Right.
go find everything to set it. But the defaults are very wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play around with it. I mean, I've enjoyed it in the past. I just like that it's different. I like that it's a different take on, and that's what's been interesting about Rhino is I have tried XFC off and on for 15 years, and it's never really
Already not
clicked with
changed
me.
in that 15 years at all, has it?
No, not very much. I mean, it has a little bit. There have been some changes they've needed to make to modernize a few things, but it's definitely very slow. And I think that's why some people just love it because it doesn't change. It works the way it works, the way it works, the way it works, and that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, so this is my first extended period on Cinnamon for a while now. And it does have that kind of it just works aspect that the others don't have per se, but with that lack of flashiness, it can be a bit boring. I think all of it depends on what it is that you are wanting. If you're wanting all the eye candy and all the configurability, I think KD is the way to go.
So I
If
think
you
Well,
uh,
I think cinnamon is too much eye candy for me. That's why I use mate.
yeah, but you're a socialist, so I mean, your views don't count.
Am I?
Moss, by the
When
way,
did Moss become a socialist?
No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Oh, I'm some kind of socialist, I'm sure.
Moss,
I've been a fan
not to
of-
drive you,
Yeah.
to drive you nuts, but you're about 25 to 30% low on your output.
Oh, okay. Well, I can always do
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Well,
Yeah, that's
I
all right.
mean, or you could just turn up your gain.
Well, if I turn up my gain, then it starts getting a little fuzzy. But yeah, okay, there I've got my gain turned up. The other problem is when I have my gain turned up, you're hearing echo out of my headphones because my headphones are up high.
Because he's
And
Maybe.
Bill's
deaf.
been complaining about that for a long time.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you're sitting back,
I mean, I do think Cinnamon on a desktop with mouse, keyboard, like I've got set up here, is fantastic.
It's because you're using those crappy Sennheisers that leak all that sound around the sides because they got those soft cushions. Man,
Well,
the
it's
guy that
because I
put those
got these
together is an
crappy
asshole.
Well, I know that, but he still gave them to me for nothing. So
That's true.
yeah,
we're
Cinnamon
talking
just-
about Joe who repaired these headphones.
Yeah,
and
no,
I
we,
nailed them.
yeah, no, we figured that out. I figured that out.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah, I was able to do that complicated deduction there of 2 plus
Yeah,
2.
considering about half of his innards is biweekly wanderings every week, or the headphones he's working on.
I fixed 20 headphones this week. Speaking of which, I have to fix a bunch of headphones this week. Josh!
Oh my, Josh Thacker!
Howdy, howdy.
Whoa, more to the party.
Woohoo!
I'm just gonna get my video working here.
Good to have you on here again, Josh. We missed you.
Hey, there we are.
There
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah, nice to see you, mate.
Right.
But yeah, Eric, just continuing on from that, I think, yeah, with a kind of keyboard and mouse and monitor and, you know, your standard kind of desktop system, Cinnamon works really well. I do think GNOME works good on touchscreen devices and laptops. And so, you know, and tablets and stuff like that. I have seen the use of it. It's what I run on my laptop, and I haven't felt the need to change it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a case of the whatever use case. The one thing is though, the use of GNOME has really got me into hitting the super key for search, and I have to remember that it's not the same. But now I've got uLauncher on this
Yep.
on this Mint box, and that does kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
Eric and I were
KRunner,
starting to talk
uLauncher.
about the difference with Moksha. Is it a desktop? Is it a window manager? Who cares? It's
But
gorgeous.
I
it's bling,
don't
it's-
understand that. Okay, this is me as being a noob. I don't understand the difference between a desktop environment and a window manager. So I don't
Most
understand.
window managers are terminal only.
Okay.
Enlightenment is not. Enlightenment was the original eye candy window manager, is how they called it, and Moksha is a fork of E17, with a lot of the backports from the later stuff. If they can make it work with E17, they backport it.
But
And it fundamentally, it's a whole different show because you don't even need a menu button. You can left click anywhere on the screen and it brings up all your menu.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I haven't
So you're
used...
not spending, you're saving a lot of time. You're single clicking on everything. So you're spending a lot of time, saving a lot of time on mouse management and clicking. And it seems
So-
magic by comparison.
The technical definition of what a window manager versus a desktop environment is a window manager is the software that controls like the placement and appearance of the windows, you know, resizing, moving, position, and basic things like borders and title bars and like real simple theming. But that's sort of where it stops. And a desktop environment has a window manager, but then all of the other stuff along with it, like
Eric, I've got a trick for you to try on Bodhi.
okay.
Double click the top bar of any window.
Does it shade or does it maximize?
It rolls up or rolls back down.
All right, I gotta see it.
Hey, Josh, what you been up to?
Oh, I like that.
Not much.
You coming back to the
Some
show?
medical things. I got some medical issues I'm trying to take care of right now. So found out my thyroid's basically not working, which is why I don't have any energy ever. So yeah, got to get that worked on. And
Have you been started on thyroxine then?
Not yet. I go to see the doctor again on Monday, so hopefully we can
Okay.
get that started. But yeah, that
Endocrinologist?
be the treatment. Right now it's with a nurse practitioner. Best I can do.
Ah,
Josh, your doctor will never tell you this because American doctors haven't accepted it yet. But lithium orotate is a safe to take over the counter supplement that will help with that.
What is it called?
Lithium orotate.
Lithium orotate. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna have to check that out. I'm not 100%
It
sure
was
about that.
developed in the 1940s by a doctor in Germany, and then he started using orotic acid to chelate all these other minerals, and he got sort of slammed as Dr. Orotate. But it's a good thing, and for that matter, bodybuilders have a tendency to use magnesium orotate, which is another of his formulas.
So I'm not entirely sure how this would work.
All right.
It's a very small amount of elemental lithium chelated with orotic acid.
Yeah, no, that bit I understood, but
Okay.
see, so thyroxine as a hormone is based around iodine. So I do know of iodine-based supplements that people take, but this is based around lithium, so I don't understand how it would.
Well,
I'm not
there are
saying
only
I'm
two
not saying
organs.
it doesn't. I'm not saying
There are
it
only
doesn't. I
two
just
organs in the body that can use lithium. One's the brain, and the other is the thyroid. And the problem is they give people lithium for their brain problems, and they give it to them in a compound lithium carbonate that does not cross the blood-brain barrier easily, and so it winds up blowing out your thyroid because your thyroid is getting too much. But if you use the orotate version, you're getting tiny amounts, and it's just being used where it's needed, and it does cross the blood-brain barrier, and there's enough left over for the thyroid, and nothing's burned out, and you're doing fine. I've been taking it for about 12 years now, I think. I might be longer than that. I didn't do math.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard of that. How have you been feeling, Eric? Have you been doing all right?
Yeah, I'm almost 2 weeks out from my hip replacement, and I'm feeling a lot better. Like I'm a lot more mobile. Um, the pain's a lot more manageable. I mean, it's annoying. I wake myself up at night. They have me on. I don't know if you guys have ever done an inpatient or bed rest, but those inflating cuffs
Oh
that
yeah.
squeeze your
Yeah.
legs for
Yeah.
blood clots.
yeah.
So they gave
Flotrons.
me battery powered ones, and they're really cool because they're self contained instead of having tubes, which are really annoying. But they're loud, like they're like a fish tank pump or something, and they're independent. So you try to match them, but then anyway. So between that sort of making noise and sort of almost waking me up, but then, yeah, I just you get in a certain position, and it just starts to ache and get really uncomfortable, and then you can't quite find it comfortable. So I end up having to like sit up. I wake up and sit up for 5 minutes just to sort of take the pressure off, and then I can lay back down. So, I mean, but it's amazing to me to think that, I was there for 6.5 hours and that was it. Like they did that's one of the reasons they do a spinal as well, is because you can go home so quickly.
Yeah.
General anesthesia, you got to kind of stay around longer. Anyway, so, it's amazing to me. I got there at 6, left at 12:30, came home. I mean, I was in a good bit of pain, but I was able to ambulate and get, between the bed and my bed here, and within a day and a half, the pain really subsided for the large part, at least the agonizing part of it. And then I started working on physical therapy, and like within a very few days, I wasn't using the walker anymore. Um, and yeah, it's been really surprising how, because you think like it's a radical thing. I mean, it sounds like it to me. You're taking part of the bone off and blah blah, but it's impressive to me how much of a sort of process they've got it down to. This incision's really not any bigger than it needs to be. I didn't have any bruising. Like they glued it shut so that I can shower and I don't have to worry about a dressing. Like that, just the whole thing is made as like simple and straightforward as possible, and the outcomes bear that, because I mean, everything they said it was going to happen has happened. And, I think probably within another week, I would say, I'm probably not going to have the same pain that I have right now. And it's awesome.
It's very much
Excellent.
it's very much like a production line at times. Um,
Yeah.
but it is a well-oiled machine. It's this concept called enhanced recovery. The idea that you do, in one sense, you could argue you should be doing it for everybody, but you do only that which is necessary, and at the same time, whatever things you do shouldn't have long-term effects. And that's what kind of enables next day or even same day discharge, which is what they did, for example, with yourself. Hips, it's a little bit more difficult to do the same day. I mean, they can do it. I mean, obviously they have done it with you. It's a little bit more difficult than say with knees. Knees are generally easier to do, apparently, like that. So because, for example, we've started doing same day knee replacements at our hospital now. But yeah, it's, as I said, if you get the system and if you get the correct facilities and and importantly, if everything goes without a hitch, there's no complications from the surgery, no issues with bleeding or anything like that, then yeah, it works as well as a production line, which is good.
Yeah. Yep. And, the great part is that the pain that I had previously because of the joint being messed up, it's gone. So now it's just smooth, none of that stabbing pain I had before. So once I know once I get through this aching part, that it's going to feel so much better. My left hip had felt a lot of pain from overcompensating, taking on the weight and that kind of stuff. It doesn't hurt anymore. So yeah, the whole thing has been such a great experience that, I'm so glad I got it done. Yeah.
I
Well,
will
thanks
say
for
my
asking.
my father had 2 hip replacement surgeries, and they kept coming loose. And turns out that his body was allergic to the glue and kept rejecting the glue.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, the cement, yeah.
Yeah, they had to use a different cement and go back in. Yeah.
I guess you never know until you do it, right? How would you ever have known that? So,
Joe's having a fine time over there talking to his family, it sounds like.
I don't know if you heard my kids screaming a little while ago. It was quite fun, the fight over who gets to do the dishes. So guess who's going to end up doing the
Oh.
dishes?
Uh-oh.
So
The
yeah,
joys of parenting.
yeah.
Yeah.
well,
But
sorry to
it's
hear
great,
that
and you
your
can tell
thyroid's
somebody to do
acting
the
up, man.
dishes, and then they'll go start doing the dishes or whatever chore you give them, and then as soon as you look away, poof, they magically disappear.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Well,
my
I
hands
don't think it's
just,
been that long since we've had an episode of desktops and window managers. So I don't think we should go back to that right now.
I don't remember the last time we had a conversation on that.
I think it's only been a year or so.
That's fine.
But then I have really bad.
Things change in a year. If you guys want to talk about desktops and window managers, I am down.
I
There
think
have
it's
been
interesting
some-
that. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say there's been some new window managers I've seen pop up in conversation that I wasn't familiar with. So I think
We'd
that's
almost
good.
have to get Dale on here to do window managers.
That's fine. I like Dale.
Yeah.
Yep.
I owe
Yeah.
him some stuff I'm supposed to send him. I'm just too damn broke to do it.
Yeah, Josh, we had the same thought at the same time. I think of things like Sway, which is the Wayland version of a window manager, it's a really cool idea, right? You take this,
Isn't there like
It's a version of
Ubuntu
i3 for
version?
Wayland.
No, isn't
Right.
there like an Ubuntu Sway remix? I'm sure I saw it on DistroTube or
Yeah,
something.
someone's come out with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah, and just the idea that, to me, they serve different purposes. Like I think there are a lot of people that like window managers because the way that they use, and if you have like a certain setup of monitors, especially like multi monitors and stuff, window managers are interesting because they allow you to place things in a very specific way. Either splitting screens or, the way that the monitor is set up. It's almost like, instead of just general computing, it's almost more like a focused, like workstation. Like you'd expect to see it like a I don't know, like in science or I'm doing a bad job of articulating this, but like it's yeah, it's more focused, it's more deterministic. You're very specific about like this is the way I want this to be, um, and then that way every time you turn on your system, you know where everything is. Like in it's muscle memory, so people will say, okay, I know this is on screen 4. So I know how to do my keyboard. It's very keyboard driven too. That's the other thing is that you have to do a lot with terminals and keyboard stuff. And to me, that doesn't make for a very uh, sort of easygoing, just sort of general computing experience, which is usually how I use my system. I tend to use workspaces a lot. So I will use 3 or 4 workspaces because I
Yeah.
only have a single monitor. Um, but so that to me, that's what's so interesting about what Pop OS does, where they have the tiling component of like a window manager that
All
you can
right.
easily switch on and then use, the tiling setup with things placed where you want them to be for whatever purpose, your whatever task. And then you turn it off and you go back to just a standard setup. So I'm very curious to see what they do with Cosmic, their
I am
new
going to wait
desktop.
until they're done with it because they keep rewriting portions of it.
They may
What
never
about
be done.
Regolith? Did anyone ever get into Regolith Ubuntu with the i3? I tried that and I was lost.
The thing that kind of frustrated me with Regolith is if you take the time to learn i3, there's kind of like a standard set of shortcuts. And Regolith just decided to change them all. So I have a little bit of experience with i3, and I went in starting to use those shortcuts, and none of them worked. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? And here the guy behind it decided to wholesale just change all of them. So you had to kind of relearn the muscle memory aspect of it.
I wonder why.
Uh,
Doesn't that really defeat the point of the window manager? I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, it's kind of muscle memory. You get used to one, you set it all up, and then
I think his premise was this was for people that didn't have that experience,
okay, so
and that
complete newbie.
he felt his defaults uh, were easier to sort of understand and to learn
I see.
than the normal defaults. But
That
my
makes sense.
argument was always, okay, great, you take the time to learn Regolith, and then you think that knowledge is going to transfer, and as soon
Right.
as you try to use anything else, you know,
Yeah, Arch i3, here I come, and then oh god, what did I do?
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Manjaro i3 is actually, if people want to try Window Manager, that's usually the one that I will say like that's a good setup because they have a really nicely put together. They've got a menu system and a panel and taskbar, and like they've sort of got all that stuff put together for you.
and I think
And
to
you
your
could,
point, Pop OS, I think their GNOME implementation also has the window manager, does it not?
it
Or
does,
that
and that's
feature?
it
Yeah,
has it. Yeah, it's sort of built in, so it's right up in the right hand side of the taskbar, and you can toggle it on. They've got like Majid was talking about U launcher, like they've got their own sort of launcher built in. Yeah, they've taken the idea of all of those extensions, GNOME extensions, and rather than just take third party ones and sort of tweak them, which at the end of the day, that's what Ubuntu's doing. They're repackaging Dash to Dock. They're repackaging,
Mm.
and that's fine. It's giving you a better experience, in my opinion. But System 76 really just went in and said, we're going to just make our own and make it something. And I think that was the impetus for Cosmic was they sort of realized that because every time GNOME updates, they don't really care about backward compatibility with extensions. And I think every time they tried to rebase on a new version of GNOME, there was a significant amount of technical debt to go back and fix
Yeah.
this stuff that breaks. So they're just
So
yield
like,
they're just going to
breakage.
write their own.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see what Cosmic ends up being. I kind of trust, based on what they've done so far, that it's going to be, pretty good, but we'll see.
I was surprised to learn that Enlightenment is actually the oldest desktop manager. It's older than KDE.
That is
Oh, wow.
interesting.
Really? Okay.
Joe, that was a very evil smile that you came back with.
Joe is good with evil smiles.
I'm telling you, it's a little frightening. A little frightening. Everything good over there, buddy?
It's World War III here in the house. But yeah.
Okay. No knives, no cleavers out or anything.
No,
We're all
not
good?
yet, not yet.
Okay.
They're all
I
dirty, so
think we-
nobody wants to use them because then they'll have to wash them.
I think we would need more planning time to do a good job on desktops and window managers.
You'd be surprised.
That's a heavy subject. There's a
So-
lot to.
So what would you like to do then?
Who's that geared to, Joe? Not me.
Eric, what would you like to do for a topic?
Or we could just pick one window manager or desktop and go over that more thoroughly.
Well, you know what before I made that choice, I would want to look back over the last like year's worth of shows. Maybe not that long, but just to kind of get an idea of what's been done
Look,
in recent memory.
it seems like every 8 months or so, I end up doing one on remote access of some kind, VPN, travel routing, things like that. And it's because once people start asking me how to do it, I do another show on it. So it's not like I wait a year to do it. I wait until people want to know about it, and then I start talking about it again.
You know, there is JWM, which is Joe's window manager.
Yes, I've used JWM quite a bit in Puppy and the like.
There's also the Joe Borland compiler.
Well, there you go. Compilers. Now, there's a topic.
Not for me.
Not for me either. I'm a Linux Mint guy. Yeah, what can I say?
I could probably do a talk on compilers with enough studying, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to do a series of shows on installing Gentoo.
Oh, man.
Lord, no.
And we'll do Linux from scratch when we're ready to quit the show.
Oh, my. You want to see people glaze over, huh?
I did a couple of videos on Slackware and setting that up, and I mean, it was interesting to do, but at the end of the day, it was just kind of like, I just don't know why I would do this, you know?
You don't know why Patrick Volkerding is still doing this.
Yes.
You
Leo
know,
loves
on one
it.
hand, it's very simple because you know exactly what's happening because you were the one that orchestrates it. So that on that hand, you know, that standpoint, like I get it. You know, if you're an old school, like I want to know exactly the breadth and depth of what's happening here. But on the other hand, like if you, I think if you're just used to the modern convenience of, you know, someone else basically making those decisions for you, which is what I think a distribution is. Like it is someone else's vision or take on like what a Linux system looks like, how it operates.
Absolutely.
And so, and I'm happy to let them do that for me because, you know, I don't know if it's laziness or what, but like I don't have that same sense of creativity, I don't think, to be able to sort of have the vision of like what.
On the other
And-
hand, it's
and
a
who-
lot
and who
more
has the time?
creativity than installing Windows. Because Windows, you get Windows. That's it.
No, but I mean, also, who has the time? I mean, I'm a tinkerer. I love tinkering, right? But I don't want to spend my entire life tinkering. At some point, I actually want to use these machines to do stuff, you know? And so, and I know, I realize that I'm atypical in that sense because most people aren't tinkerers. Most people just want it to work, you know?
That's why we do distro hoppers, to make sure everyone knows whether a system works or not. And why you might want to try that system as opposed to a different one.
Yeah.
Which I'm having trouble with Linux Lite for my next review because there's really nothing making it stand out. It just does everything simply. And Anyone that complains about flat designs will not like Linux Lite anyhow.
So when I'm looking through the show notes, I'm looking for what you would call the main topic for a show, and I guess I'm having a hard time.
So that's the innards bit right at the
Yes,
end.
Linux innards.
So
We
basically, you
also-
know,
Oh,
Usually
Okay.
say what the innards are right at the top. So sometimes it gets
Okay.
listed there, sometimes it doesn't.
all right, gentlemen, I'm going to have to bid farewell. It's what 9 o'clock here, and I've got another 24-hour shift tomorrow.
That's all?
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, at the hospital. Yeah, no, I'm not looking forward to it. To be honest, I'm really
Hey,
not.
just anesthetize yourself and take a nap.
Oh God, I wish that. Don't tempt me, Moss. Don't tempt me. I have access to some very powerful drugs. No,
Keep
it's,
talking like
no,
that and it won't be for long.
Yeah, exactly. No, because the junior doctor I'm with tomorrow, she's very.
Junior?
She's not junior. She suffers from acopia.
I don't know what that is.
Nope.
Okay,
Don't have
all
that
right.
one.
Let's say you didn't get the joke. She can't cope,
oh, okay.
right? It's like everything's a crisis. Everything's this, everything's that, and she needs a hand for everything. And you just kind of like, calm down, woman. But I can't say that because then I'd
Look,
get into trouble
just
with our
explain
equality
to her-
diversity law.
Just explain to her that when everything's a crisis, nothing is.
All right. Where's the
Yeah.
contrast?
Anyway, have a good evening, folks, or afternoon. Sorry, it's over there. It's evening over here, and I shall catch you when I catch you. Take care.
Take care.
Nice to meet you, Eric. Bye.
Nice to meet you too. So here's
So
one.
now we
maybe.
have less distance between us.
Indeed.
Here's one maybe. So I got a tablet, hoping that it would be an Android tablet, hoping that it would be
Not
something
garbage?
that I could. Well, so Samsung has DeX, which really makes it much more usable than just a traditional Android device. So DeX does really sort of give you that. A couple of really important things. One is the desktop sort of approach where you can use it, with floating windows. And two, Android loves to close things in the background to save memory and power. And when it's on DeX, it doesn't do that. So your apps retain their state. If you have 5 apps open, they all stay open. And I think you'll probably run into, if you're out of memory, then it kind of has to do something. But I haven't quite hit that. This thing has 8 gigs of RAM, and that hasn't been an issue. The real problem is that for a lot of the stuff I do, I really need a desktop browser, and using a mobile browser in desktop mode is not the same thing. And so that's been a big challenge. The other thing I tried a couple years ago was to get a Chromebook or Chrome OS convertible tablet, which basically just meant that it was a keyboard cover half of it and a tablet the other half of it. It was a Lenovo device. And the problem was that the software showed great promise in terms of how I can run a full Linux. Well, the Chrome browser that's built into that is a desktop browser, but also you can run full fat Linux apps, which would be, other browsers if you want, or, just different apps and things. And so you're running essentially a desktop operating system in many ways. The problem was not the software, the hardware was awful.
Yeah, I've had that problem with Lenovo tablets.
So
I would
I'm
have
kind
thought
of
they'd
like,
have it better by now, but they don't.
no, and this was their Duet, and yeah, just didn't have enough memory. The processor wasn't good enough. Like, it just wasn't a strong enough system to actually do the job.
ARM based, I'd assume.
Yeah, let me bring up
Yeah.
that Chrome OS is changing. Chrome OS is going to be divorcing the browser from the operating system, and it'll just be another version of Linux. It'll be
That's
able
what I
to
was going to
run-
ask about.
Yeah.
So-
It's about time to buy a Pine Tab Pro, I think.
So that's kind of my what I've been trying to do, and not so much because my laptop is so unwieldy, but I'll tell you that the difference between having and using it as an actual thing that's on my lap, right? For the last 2 weeks, I've tried to use my laptop on my lap, and the weight of it, just the extra pound or two,
Yeah.
really pushing on my leg really caused a lot of pain versus my tablet, which was light enough that it didn't hurt at all. And I had a mouse and I had my detachable keyboard, and it in so in terms of like interfacing with it and using peripherals and all of that like that,
Look,
there's no problems with that. It really just comes down to the software that is available for Android being.
I will go off all day on tablets if you let me. Moss has heard me do it on an occasion or three. And you probably should have talked to me, and I would have made some recommendations on tablets to buy that probably would have cost less than that Android Tinker Toy. But,
Running what though?
well, Linux. Like full Linux. That's what my tablets do. So the Dell, like if you wanted lightweight with the extra battery life, I would say the Dell Venue 11 Pro, one of the later models. Take your pick. They do have a slightly heavier keyboard though, because the keyboard has a battery in it. So if you were just looking to use an ultralight, I would go. Well, you could still use the Dell Venue 11 Pro with a Bluetooth keyboard. But then there's the Dell Latitude line, and I'd have to look up the numbers again on those. But those, they have the i5 and the i7 processors. I think like what is it? It's either 6th gen or 8th gen, and they just scream and they work perfect right out of the box when you put Linux on them. And then they're pretty light, and they're just a screen. But if you want it even lighter than that, I would say you go back another generation before the Venue 11 and you go with the Transformer. Now the hardware isn't as good as I would like, but they are, and they require a little bit more tweaking to get Linux working on them, mostly with the 32-bit bootloader and the 64-bit operating system. So you have to do some UEFI magic there. But once you're done with that they run everything just fine, with the exception of having to configure audio manually. But they also super light. You can either use a hard keyboard or not. And battery is good because most of those, I believe, are the ARM processors and run Linux great.
Eric,
Well, I think
is an Ultrabook too heavy for you?
Well, I like having the reason I like a tablet is that I do want to be able to consume media and just have it be a tablet. A simple web browser, media consumption, email, real light productivity stuff. But then be able to then say, okay, now I'm actually going to do some work on it and have a browser, a file manager, just the basic stuff to be productive.
Then I would say the Venue 11 or the Latitude, because I love my Venue, and I've even used it for podcasting. Hook up a headset to it, USB headset to it, and I'm off to the races.
And what's this about Android? Is it going like Chrome OS? Is that what I'm understanding?
Mine? No. It starts out as a Windows machine, and I turn it into a Linux machine.
No, I mean the new version that Moss was referring to, where they're divorcing the web browser from.
Yeah, it's just going to be another. It's going to be another version of Linux.
So Chromebooks,
it's just a proprietary version of Linux.
Chromebooks will be Linux boxes.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm looking up Dell Venue 11s. I'm seeing them anywhere from $80 to $160.
You just be careful which one you get. You get the one that either has the i5 or the i7. They're both good models, and at least 8 gigs of RAM. Don't get the 4 gig model.
Okay, this is a 4 gig. Okay, yeah, I got a 4 gig here for $79.99 plus shipping, and there's an 8 gig model for $157.50. I'm looking on eBay.
It's
of
still
course.
cheaper than the new Samsung tablets.
That's an awful nice double-edged safety razor, Eric. I don't know.
And then there's
It is.
another 8 gig for $149.98 with free shipping. So that's probably the best deal so far.
I usually get them cheaper because I go for the broken ones and then I fix them.
Yeah.
But it's been a
This
long
one's-
time since I did that.
This one's a 7139 with an i5 4300Y.
Yeah, the Y models, the 7139s, I don't know if I'd go with. The 7140s are good, and the 7130s are good. The 39s, I'm not certain about. I think the nice thing about the 39s is that they don't have the fans that the 40s do, so they're a little bit quieter.
Well, I'm not seeing any 7140s here except for there's a 7130 with 4 gigs, 7140 with 4 gigs.
Yeah,
How
I'm
hard does
seeing
that hit the battery life, Joe, for active cooling versus passive?
You know, I'm always so close to a charger. I don't really think about it. I know that the battery life on my keyboard right now sucks because I had it in storage for a while and I recently pulled it back out and started using it again. But I don't know if that's because of how quickly it's burning the battery or just because it's a really old battery. So it will drain from the keyboard battery first and then drain from the battery in the tablet itself. And an hour and a half I'm burning through a battery.
Joe, you can't add memory to those?
You cannot. You can. The nice thing about them is they do have an M.2 slot, but if I remember right, the Venue line runs the 2242, so you can't just walk into a store and buy a 2280 and slap it in there.
Okay, here's a 7140 with an M5Y71. M5Y71.
It's not one of the I's.
What's that?
It's not one of the I line.
Nope, that's got to be an Atom.
Yeah,
Better
the one
battery.
the ones I'm seeing are 7139s. They're i5s, between 100 and 200. Yeah, and they all have 8 gigs of RAM.
There's a few from the United Kingdom.
It's funny how some of them have like what looks like a 2.5-inch bezel, and some of them have what looks to be like 3/4 of an inch. I guess that just changed as they were going through their production cycle or something.
Well, I'm happy with my T580, although it's a little bit bigger than that since it's a 15.6-inch screen.
Yeah, I mean something like this. If I could just pull the keyboard off, hold it, like a tablet.
You can.
Even if there was some sort of soft case or something with a stand that I could just sort of prop it up maybe. And then when I want to, throw the keyboard on it, I like that it has a touchpad. I mean, this is definitely something that looks like a good option. That I would guess. And you're right, Joe. There's ones that's like parts only for $30. Like.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that, but
The no OS ones are good though if they have the right amount of RAM on them. Usually if you find a tablet or a computer with no OS, that means that they don't want to give you a Windows license.
No, incorrect. With these, it means that they took out the M.2 hard drive and you need to go and get a 2242.
Okay.
I mean, I would want one that's complete and just probably would come with Windows 10 or something like that on it. Like the top one is a Venue 11 Pro 7139 i5 4300Y.
Yeah, that one's fine.
8 gigs of RAM, 256 gig hard drive. 1080p Win 10 tablet.
I have that on my screen for $99.99. Buy it now, free shipping.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of. That was just the one that's at the top. It's 157 for that one, but yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to give one of these a try just for the hell of it because, honestly, for that price, I'm happy to get one of these, and if it fits the use case, then I'll just get rid of the the Samsung. I don't really love the
Majid in the
Samsung.
YouTube comments said
Okay.
Lenovo MIIX series.
Eric, I'm putting a link in your Discord for the $99.99 one. It had the same specs as what you just read.
Okay.
And it's $99.99. Buy it now, free shipping.
No power supply. I guess that.
Oh,
you
that
you
could be.
do need a specific power supply with these. Just look up the power supply for it. So a lot of the ones that I got that were parts because they wouldn't power on, the person didn't realize that you needed the Dell's 24-watt charger in order to make it work correctly. And then you just hook up that charger and, hey, look, you have a super cheap tablet that someone thought was broken.
The other shame of this is exactly what I was looking for when I ended up getting the Lenovo Duet.
Yeah.
I mean, the Duet was actually more expensive than these too. I bought it new, and it was probably close to 200. And yeah, and you know what? I gave it more than a chance. I really gave it a try and used it for.
I had a Lenovo tablet that was recommended to me by George at Tech and Coffee, and he was using the same one, and I wound up sending it to my friend in Detroit and just buying a bloody Fire tablet because for the money it was a lot more powerful, and it just was the problem is it isn't even pure Android. Fire OS is a fork of Android.
Gotcha. So, Lenovo Mix. Just out of curiosity, just to look.
The 24-watt charger. There's a buy it now for $22.99 free shipping.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like these have. Most of them have an i5 8th gen.
Yeah.
With 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs storage.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Which is
some
fine.
really low end ones that have atoms in them, but those are
and those also
Yeah,
only have
300
most of those
series.
have 2 gigs of RAM too.
This
Yeah,
one's
man.
4, but yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not going to be as powerful.
Well, Joe said get 8 gigs or else.
Oh,
In
no, I
modern
would never-
times, yeah, you need 8 gigs.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna skimp on memory.
Especially on a machine that does not have a way to add memory.
Here's
what
a
killed me
parts
about-
only.
The Samsung Galaxy S20 had 12 gigs of RAM in a phone. And when I saw that, I'm like, I'm getting you, for my wife, I'm like, I'm getting you this phone just because I want to see if it makes a difference to have that much memory. And Android's still Android. Like, it still wants to close things down in the background, even if you've got copious amounts of memory available. I think some of that's power saving more than anything.
Oh, absolutely. I just
but,
open Netflix and you let it sit for 5 minutes. Then you go to change something and you open it and it's already shut the application. I mean, it's technically there in the background, but you have to basically relaunch it to get it to
Yeah.
reconnect to the television.
Yeah.
Pain in the butt.
Yeah, so this Mix one it looks almost identical to the Dell. So I don't know. I've never had good luck with Lenovo. I've always had much better luck with Dell.
I haven't
Well,
tried them.
I've had great luck with Lenovo laptops. I have had occasionally very good luck with Lenovo phones, which are Motorola's. But the tablets, I have yet to find one that was really powerful enough for me.
It was the only one I've ever had, and it's an 8-inch that I got for free from T-Mobile, and I added a Bluetooth keyboard case thing. That's it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. That's all I ever did.
Yeah. And I
Well,
think
I am, like I said early in this, I am very tempted to just get a Pine Tab Pro.
I'm with you. And I would love to think that I could get that device, put a touch version of some Linux. Joe, what Linux do you run on these tablets?
Mint.
Which distro?
Mint. Linux Mint.
Well, you can't run that on PineTab because Mint does not have an ARM version.
Right. Well, that's the nice thing about having a 386 processor is, or an x86 processor
Yeah.
is you don't have that limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have to, if you're
Well,
running Mint,
Manjaro ARM runs well.
and it's not like there aren't options. You know, again, with the Pine tablet, it would be nice to think that you could get it, and the Pine phone's the same way, that you'd be able to just pick it up and have it run really well with one of, Ubuntu Touch, Plasma Touch,
Oh,
you know. But
Not
Well,
even
I've
it's
heard
not the
nothing
case
but
yet.
bad.
They are
Yeah.
still training devices.
oh no!
Yeah.
I gave mine to Leo because it was just absolutely unusable in terms of like the Pine phone.
Yeah.
It just I mean, it was okay as a developer device, but as like
It's not a
an
daily
end
driver.
user, no, nowhere near.
Not a
Mm.
consumer device, yeah. Oh, well. So, what are we going to talk about?
Well, I think that's kind of what's okay. That that might be, and that's kind of my idea is like Linux on mobile devices in general and how capable they are and the use cases that you might have for them. Like how I don't think it's unreasonable for me to have the expectation that in a tablet device that I can use it for media consumption and you know web browsing, like stuff where you're just literally typing in touch mode, right? And then also be able to put a keyboard on it, have a mouse if you want, or the keyboard has a touchpad, and then actually get some work done on it. And I'm not going to be compiling code and encoding media. Like I get that, and that's not my use case. My use case is building websites and working on stuff that as long as I have a decent browser, a good file manager, I'm talking basics here. It doesn't have to be the most powerful system in the world. It just has to be capable enough and not be so slow that I literally want to throw it out of the window.
There's the
So
caveat.
so reasonable performance, reasonable cost, and the flexibility to work as both a decent tablet and a decent productivity system. The battery is I'm never going to be so far away from power that if it's over an hour or two, like yeah, it's nice. It would be nice that if it's in tablet mode and I don't have a cord hanging over me, so I can use it to watch a video, a whole movie or something. You know what I mean? Like that would be good. And
So, our topic is Linux on tablets.
or just Linux on mobile devices in general. If we
Linux
want
on
to
mobile.
call in,
Okay.
yeah, like it is something that to me, the promise has been there for such a long time.
Convergence. We will
And-
have a convergence conversation.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah.
use Fosh. That's it. That's basically don't use Fosh.
It's not any good yet.
Actually, I don't know. My actual data is very outdated on this, but I
Yeah.
remember Joe tried it. I tried it. It was horrid. I mean,
I preferred
just
Manjaro.
mind-bendingly horrid. Yeah, it was like
Or
oh my
Ubuntu
God.
Touch.
Which is okay, except that they don't have any ability to run on 4G, so it makes it effectively useless here in the States for mobile applications.
So,
Because
therefore, they wouldn't have
4G is
5G either.
No, those are proprietary to each device. So
Yeah.
each device would take its own development team and,
those radios.
Well, that
yep.
sucks.
yeah.
So there's definitely a split topic in terms of like a tablet. I have no expectation of mobile connectivity. Wi-Fi is really all that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if I needed it, I could just use my phone to do a hotspot, and use the tablet with my phone as a hotspot. Like I'm just not worried about the tablet having mobile connectivity. So it's really much more around function for the tablet. But I understand if we do want to talk about phones, and I really don't have a lot of experience with open source anything on a phone, so I'm probably not going to have a lot to talk about other than the idea that if there was a phone. So the promise of the Pine phone was hopefully that it would be usable, right? That you'd be able to actually, maybe it wouldn't be 100%, one for one feature complete with a Android or iOS device, but that you'd at least be able to use it for the large percentage, especially with stuff being so many things being web based now, and even a mobile browser is enough to sort of get to and do a lot of things.
Right.
Some modest amount of apps, that sort of stuff. But I just feel like that has been such a. I mean, it feels like it's been such a long time that we've been hearing about this, that there's just been so little traction.
I still don't know anyone that owns a Librem 5.
Well, I think because it's such a Herculean task to achieve parity with, and well, I mean, to get anywhere near Android or iOS, I mean, you're asking a lot of a community. And I mean, for instance, using Ubuntu Touch, even most of the apps are just web based. They're not even, native.
Well, there's also
Yeah,
the
exactly.
price of the Librem 5.
Yeah,
It's over $1,000 for a Chinese model and $1,000 more for a U.S. made model.
Yeah.
Now, I think so some of that could come down to form factor as well, right? I mean, some people just like a handheld phone-sized device, and maybe don't care that it isn't an Android device or an iOS device. Maybe they're just happy that it has a decent web browser, that it has some apps, that it has, that you can do things with it, take photos, right? Listen to music. I mean, if it fills sort of certain roles. Oh, here we go.
Joe is showing us something.
There we go.
Oh, it says 1GX. I know it's
Nice.
a 1GX. It's got to be a 1GX.
Yep. That's a cool little gadget right there, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
The custom 3D printed and built docking station that I made, because this thing only has like the 3 ports in the back, and now it's got like 20 ports
Well done, Joe.
and full size HDMI.
Nice.
Oh, hey.
It's
Yeah, I
good.
think you're right, Eric.
But the 1GX by itself is not cheap.
I got this for $155. $100 because the guy had let the battery bloat and like bend the crap out of it, and $55 to order a new battery. And I took it apart. I took that old battery out, immediately got rid of it because it was ready to pop. And then waited my month to get the battery from China, and yeah, it worked perfectly.
Right.
And then 3D printing your...
Oh, that was many iterations and me just wanting more ports.
Never have enough ports.
Never.
Looks like mint to me.
Yep.
What processor does that have, Joe?
This was the Indiegogo version, which had the i5, while the ones that are currently on Amazon have an i7.
Wow.
Let me see. I don't remember which i5 LSCPU.
In the meantime, I think people that don't care, they don't care what they're running. It's more about the application.
It's the i5 10210Y. So it's a 10th gen i5. And it has 16 gig of RAM built in. And it has 500 gig of built-in storage, and then it's got the SD card port, and it's got an M.2 2230 port.
Oh boy.
That's actually pretty impressive for a machine that size.
On Amazon, a 1GX 1 Pro is $1,729.
That's
Holy
the
moly.
i7 version, though. Like I said, this
Yes,
is
it
the
is.
the Kickstarter version or whatever, but that one's a
There
little bit
is-
newer. But this one was $1,000 at least when it came
I'm
out.
sorry, 1,700 is
That's the
hard
5G
to
version
swallow.
with 16 gigs and 512 gigs. The Wi-Fi version with 16 gigs and a terabyte is $1,439.
Which is why I was so happy to get this.
The 4G
For
version with
$100?
16
Yeah.
gigs and 512 gigs is $1,470.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That's insane.
A little too rich
Here
for my
is
blood.
a Wi-Fi
yeah.
version for $1,399.
Oh, that's a bargain.
0.00, yes. Not 13.99.
No.
They also have gamepad hidden slide handles.
I'm using that to make my mount, the slide handle portions. Plus, I ordered not the Jungle Cat, something. Yeah, no, it was the Razer Jungle Cat, and then I 3D printed handles so that they would fit on there like the original handles that came with this, but for a lot less money.
Hey man, I paid $750 for my first car. I'm sorry, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, cars have gone up a bundle too.
I just bought one. I know.
Like I said, $155 for a $1,000 machine. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good score. Good
Yep.
job on that one, Joe.
Oh, I pulled open this 1GX1 Pro gaming laptop, 4G version, 16 gigs and 512 gigs, and it has 1 rating for 1 star, or five ratings for 1 star.
They love it. The people have spoken.
Overheats on a whim, keyboard and touchpad will stop working routinely. Looking on Discord has been a constant issue with this device for the last year, and the manufacturer still hasn't addressed it. This thing isn't worth the money, and I deeply regret purchasing it.
Now, I will say that if I am
Rave review.
in the current Texas heat, if I am like running something on here that's even moderately heavy, it will get warm, and I will have to crank the fans up. But still, it's great.
All right. Well, we kind of have a topic.
Maybe.
If we get busy on the show notes.
Yeah, I haven't had enough money to throw at new machines to say what's good anymore. Darned economy.
Yeah, the name brand on the 1GX is Pet for You.
Ah.
I don't pay $1,600 for a pet, thank you.
No.
I don't think I spent that total on my desktop upgrade. And I mean, I bought a $400 video card, and I don't think I spent that much.
Well, I spent under $200 for my desktop, and of course I've talked about it a few thousand times. The little i7 ThinkCenter M700 tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whatever gets you by.
Yeah. Here's.
But I have been using the Samsung
There we
Dex.
go. There's my system.
Cool.
Very small.
Got the M700, got the Focusrite Solo on top of it, and then I got the Wavelength next to it, which has my external drives.
Ah, the toaster.
Yep, my toaster.
Yeah.
Can't get that model anywhere. You can't.
I know, it's disappointing. It was so good for such a good price.
Well, they have another model that doesn't have all the extra USB ports on it, but it's just basically a cloner that you can also use for external drives, but it doesn't have. This thing has micro USB, full size, micro SD, full size SD, 2 USB 3 ports, and then 2 USB charging ports on it. In addition to the cloner. Yeah, it's great. You can't.
Yeah, everything now is half the quality and double the price.
Yeah.
I keep dragging my old desktop into the future. I rebuilt it 3 years ago. I've got Ryzen 5 5600. 6-core 12-thread. I had a GTX 970 in this thing for 6-7 years. I mean, it was a
great
long
video
time on that
though.
card. It was a great card. It still played like modern stuff. Anyway,
well,
so I finally upgraded to a 2060, and I've been really happy with it.
I did have that one before my current server. I had the server before that, which was AMD Phenom 2, which I used for like a decade and some change.
I'm still using one, Joe. My front room computer, Phenom 2 955 Black Edition
Yeah,
quad
that,
core,
that
baby.
that's the one I
And
have.
that's what we use.
It was a good little
I'm
machine
still
until
rocking
it just started overheating all the time, and then I had to rebuild.
Yep.
I've been using the same case for close to 12 years now. It's just it's a mid-tower ATX. Like, what's there? There's nothing new about a mid-tower case. I mean, and
I mean, aside from the USB ports, I mean, if you don't need the latest and greatest there, then there's really no reason.
This has the headers for USB 3, so
you're good.
You know, I don't really. I mean, it's not like the case is expensive, but at the same time, it just feels wasteful to get a new one whenever it's the same thing. So yeah, I've just been. Last time I just pulled the board out, put a new board, chip, memory. I just sort of replaced everything, and I think I spent, I don't know, $450 because I reused the video card and all of my drives and everything. So really, I was just the board, the CPU, the cooler. I got a different cooler. The cooler's not expensive.
Well, I still have my Z800 for sale if anyone wants one.
How about my case off of a former coworker of mine on Craigslist, and his name is Craig.
It's his list.
$20. Yeah.
Nice.
Right. Z800 has two quad-core Xeons in it. They're single-threaded, but they're still quad-core Xeons. And it's from 2010. And it's got a 1250 watt power supply on it. Got more drive bays than you can count. And the best venting and cord management I've ever seen in a computer.
High praise from Moss.
Anyhow, I'm about worn out here.
Yeah, it's getting late, and we have a topic. Eric, if you start off on the innards, I will kind of follow along with what you want. Otherwise, I'll go off in the weeds in whatever direction I pick, and that can be a problem.
I'll just do a basic synopsis, just kind of like a bullet list, sort of like, these are the highlights of what I think I'd like to cover, and then we can just riff off of that.
Okay.
Well, you should have an invitation to the notes by now, because I gave Bill your email almost as soon as you gave it to me.
Oh,
because I have been enjoying Samsung decks at work. Hook up my phone to the screen next to me, hit a button, move my keyboard and mouse over, and and
I think in terms of making Android usable, Dex is a huge part of that, right? I mean, if you just tried to use an Android device, I mean, you could even hook up a screen and you can do certain things, but there's so little.
Save it for next week, because I want to get into a discussion about how badly they screwed up dropping Linux on Dex, and that's all content for next week.
Okay, sounds good.
That should be interesting.
Do you want in on it, Josh?
Oh, I wish I could, but no, it's all you guys. I'll be listening though. Yep. And where's the braid gone, Joe? Where's the braid?
Oh, I just didn't put it in today. It's been a little dry, I don't want to start breaking it. I guess we also need to next Saturday for at least a little bit. Let's get together and get you set up on Video Ninja and make sure your sound is good there. And then we won't have any problems on Sunday.
Okay.
All right, fellas. Look forward to hearing you.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to drop the stream.
Shasta.
See you.